The Seattle Seahawks should have been taking a victory lap, but instead they moved like a team that still feels hunted. A Super Bowl banner is coming to Lumen Field. Sam Darnold is back with real command of the offense, and Jackson Smith-Njigba is no longer just a rising star. He is the kind of receiver defenses plan around all week. That is what makes this whole thing strange. Seattle already had the ring. Seattle already had the proof, but John Schneider and Mike Macdonald looked at the roster and acted like the job was not finished. The easy story is that Seattle lost pieces. Kenneth Walker III left after becoming the Super Bowl hero. Kobe Bryant walked out of the secondary. Rick Woolen moved on. Boy Mafe was no longer in the building. For most teams, that kind of offseason creates panic. But Seattle did not look shaken. They looked prepared. They turned the draft into a reset button, added fresh speed, added length on defense, added protection for Sam Darnold, and gave Mike Macdonald more pieces for the kind of defense that already made the NFC uncomfortable. That is the part nobody wants to say out loud. The Seahawks did not spend the offseason trying to survive their losses. They used those losses to get younger, faster, and harder to read. Jadarian Price walked in as the new first-round weapon. Bud Clark gave the defense a movable piece. Julian Neal brought a more physical edge to the corner room. Bo Stevens became the hidden name that could matter more than people think. And this is where the story turns, because the first loss everyone talked about was Kenneth Walker III. But the way Seattle answered that loss says everything about what they are really building. The loudest alarm in Seattle was not the parade ending. It was Kenneth Walker III leaving right after becoming the biggest name from their Super Bowl run. That is the kind of exit that usually shakes a locker room, because fans do not forget who carried the ball when everything was on the line. And when Kansas City brought him in on a 3-year deal worth up to $45 million, the whole league had a reason to ask the same thing. How does Seattle replace that kind of moment, that kind of burst, that kind of trust? But this is where the story gets sharp. John Schneider was not trying to win a press conference. He was looking at the next wave. Zach Charbonnet still matters, but he was coming back from injury. Emmanuel Wilson gave the room another body with real NFL experience. George Holani and Kenny McIntosh were still fighting for space. So the question was never whether the Seahawks had names in the building, the question was whether they had someone who could change the feel of the offense the second he touched the ball. That answer came at pick 32, and it was louder than people wanted to admit. Jadarian Price did not enter the building as a small depth move. He entered as the first real sign that Seattle had already turned the page. Not slowly, not carefully, right away. Kenneth Walker III gave this team a memory that will live forever, but Seattle used the draft to chase the future instead of sitting inside the past. And now the pressure shifts to Jadarian Price. Because if he hits early, the Seahawks did not just replace a star. They changed the clock on their whole offense. Jadarian Price is not walking into Seattle as a quiet backup story. He is walking into the loudest open door on the whole offense. The Seahawks did not spend the 32nd pick on a running back, so he could wait around and watch the season happen. They took him because his game has a sudden feel to it. One cut, one crease, one bad angle from a defender, and the whole play changes before the crowd even understands what happened. That is why this move matters so much for Sam Darnold. A quarterback coming off a huge year does not need the offense placed only on his arm every week. He needs a run game that forces linebackers to hesitate. He needs safeties to step forward. He needs defenders thinking about Jadarian Price before the snap, because that half second is where Jackson Smith-Njigba, Cooper Kupp, and Rashid Shaheed start finding space. This is not only about replacing carries, this is about changing how defenses have to breathe against Seattle. And the scary part is the timing. Zach Charbonnet still has a role. Emmanuel Wilson gives the room more depth, and the young backs behind them keep the pressure alive. But Jadarian Price is the name that makes the offense feel new right now. He gives Mike Macdonald and John Schneider a fresh weapon without asking Seattle to change its whole identity. The run game gets younger, Sam Darnold gets help. The receivers get cleaner looks. But while everyone is watching the first-round pick, the front office made another move later that might protect the whole thing. The Seattle Seahawks made their loudest move in the first round, but the move that showed the front office was thinking deeper came much later. John Schneider does not throw away future picks for no reason. That is not his style. So when Seattle jumped back into the 5th round for Bo Stevens, it told you something real. This was not a random depth pick. This was the front office seeing a player falling too far and deciding the risk of waiting was bigger than the cost of moving. Bo Stevens is the kind of lineman most fans do not scream about on draft night, but quarterbacks notice him fast. Sam Darnold had the weapons. He had Jackson Smith, Njigba, Cooper Kupp, and Rashid Shaheed putting pressure on defenses. But none of that matters if the middle of the pocket starts breaking down. That is why this pick matters. Bo Stevens gives Seattle another strong body inside, another option at guard, and another reason to believe this offense can stay balanced instead of leaning too hard on one part of the field, and this is where the whole plan starts to look connected. Jadarian Price gives the run game new life. Bo Stevens helps open the lanes and protect the quarterback. John Schneider was not only replacing stars, he was protecting the system around them. That is how smart teams stay dangerous after winning. They do not chase noise. They fix pressure points before those pressure points become problems. But while the offense was getting tougher up front, Mike Macdonald was about to get the kind of defensive piece that makes his whole scheme harder to read. The next move is where Mike Macdonald starts smiling. Because Bud Clark is not the kind of defender who sits in one spot and waits for the play to find him. He gives Seattle movement before the snap, movement after the snap, and that is a nightmare for quarterbacks who want clean answers. One play he can sit high, the next play he can slide down. Then he can walk into the slot and make the offense wonder what coverage they are really seeing. That matters because Seattle did not need a basic safety. They needed a flexible piece after the secondary changed shape. Kobe Bryant was gone. Rick Woolen was gone. The room needed new speed, new range, and new confidence. Bud Clark brings that kind of energy without forcing Mike Macdonald to shrink the defense. He lets him expand it. He lets him disguise more. He lets him turn the back end into a moving puzzle instead of a fixed picture. And this is why the pick feels bigger than the draft slot. Bud Clark does not just fill a hole. He gives Seattle a new way to stress the offense before the ball even leaves the quarterback's hand. Add him around Devin Witherspoon, Julian Love, Ty Okada, and the rest of that defensive room. And suddenly the Seahawks are not only replacing names, they are changing the menu. But the real edge of this secondary did not stop with Bud Clark. Because the next defensive back brought something Seattle has always loved when its defense is at its best. Julian Neal brings a different kind of message to Seattle. Not loud, not flashy, more like line up across from me and find out. That matters for a defense built on timing, disguise, and pressure from every angle. Mike Macdonald does not need corners who only look good when everything is clean. He needs corners who can fight through contact, stay calm when the ball is coming, and make a receiver feel the snap before the route even starts. That is why Julian Neal fits this room so well. He is a new rookie corner with real size, real edge, and the kind of frame Seattle has always valued when its defense feels dangerous. Put him near Devin Witherspoon and the room starts to feel different. Witherspoon brings the fire. Julian Neal brings the length. Bud Clark brings movement behind them. Now quarterbacks are not just reading coverage, they are reading bodies, leverage, and pressure before the play even opens. The best part is that Seattle is not asking Julian Neal to become the face of the defense on day one. That is not the point. The point is depth with teeth. The point is making every practice rep harder, every matchup tighter, every receiver work for clean space. Andre Fuller and Michael Dansby add more competition behind him, but Julian Neal is the name that brings back that physical corner feel. And once you add that to what Mike Macdonald already has, the NFC West problem becomes much bigger than one draft pick. The NFC West did not sit still while Seattle lifted the trophy. Los Angeles still has Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, and Devontae Adams, so nobody is pretending the Rams are easy. Arizona made a huge swing by taking Jeremiah Love with the third pick, giving Kyler Murray a fresh backfield threat. San Francisco kept reshaping its roster too, including the move that sent D. Winters to Dallas. This division is not soft, it is loaded with answers. But Seattle has something different right now. The Seahawks are not searching for who they are. They already know. Sam Darnold runs the offense. Jackson Smith-Njigba bends coverage. Jadarian Price brings new stress to the run game. Mike Macdonald controls the defensive identity. That matters in a division where every small weakness gets attacked fast. The Rams have firepower, the Cardinals have speed, the 49ers have pride and structure. But Seattle has the cleanest path because the foundation is already proven. That is why this offseason feels bigger than a normal draft class. The Seahawks did not need to sell hope. They needed to protect momentum. Every rival made moves, but Seattle moved with the calm of a team that already knows the standard. The offense got younger, the defense got more flexible. The roster got deeper in the exact places that decide close games. And now the final question is the one nobody around the division wants to answer. If this is what Seattle looks like after losing key names, what happens when all these new pieces start fitting together? The truth is simple. Seattle did not have a normal champion offseason. They lost names that would scare most front offices, then answered with a class built for their exact style of football. John Schneider did not chase empty noise. Mike Macdonald did not need a brand new identity. They found players who fit the machine already running, and that is what makes this dangerous. The Seahawks are not hoping to find themselves. They are sharpening what already worked. Look at how clean the pieces connect. Jadarian Price gives the backfield a younger burst. Bo Stevens gives Sam Darnold more protection where pressure hurts the most. Bud Clark gives the defense more movement. Julian Neal gives the corner room more size and edge. Then Jackson Smith-Njigba sits above all of it as the receiver every defense has to circle before the week even starts. That is not random team building. That is a front office picking the exact spots where a champion usually starts getting old, thin, or predictable. So nobody has to admit it today, but the signs are already there. Seattle looks built to stay in the fight, not fade after one great run. The Rams, Cardinals, and 49ers all have real talent. But the Seahawks have the cleaner plan right now. They kept the heart of the team, replaced the weak points, and gave Mike McDonald even more ways to make Sundays uncomfortable. The scary part is not what Seattle was last season. The scary part is what they might become now.